3, 2, 1. Hi there, I'm Danny Henderson. Welcome to my beautiful channel and my beautiful guest today. He is known around the world as Sunbow True Brother. He is an author, a Sasquatch experiencer, an interspecies communicator, and a shamanic practitioner. Now, one of the main reasons why he's back on this channel is because he was being messed with by Facebook, who were blocking him, trying to stop his amazing, incredible library, his encyclopedic library of true life experiences, the Sasquatch Message to Humanity, the Contemporary Shamanic Journeys, which is the name of his third book, the autobiographical trilogy that he is bringing out. And there are certain elements trying to block it, not on this channel, not on my watch. So I saw that nonsense going on and I said, Sunbow, True Brother, my brother, do you want to come on my channel and share your beautiful work? And he said, yes, please. So here we are. Welcome, Sunbow, True Brother. So good to have you back.
Hi, Danny. Thank you for inviting me again on your podcast. It's nice to be here.
It's my pleasure.
As you said, yeah, indeed, I had a lot of trouble with not only Facebook, but Facebook is like the biggest social media. But for instance, there I had 5 profiles blocked over the years. I got access to the 4. I lost access to the 4 pages I used to manage, among many other things. But there was also, it's a bigger matrix that controls everything that goes online. And just the day after I published my latest book, the day after, my computer was hacked. And the good news is from today, just after 2 days of troubleshooting, I just finally succeeded in salvaging all my data, last few years of work. So
good.
That is good, but the machine is gone.
Goodness me. I'm so happy you managed to salvage your work. And it's, you know, it's so devastating to be hacked and to have your beautiful real life experiences try to be blocked. By who? You know, nobody of any importance. And it just shows you when you're a target like you've been, how important it is to listen to what you bring for humanity from the Sasquatch and from your shamanic journeys. So I'd love to ask you, because I know people that don't know you would be curious, where does the name Sunbow True Brother come from?
The name SunBôw I've been using for about 40 years now. It came from a vision quest that I took to Agua Azul in Chiapas, southern Mexico. And I received this vision of a rainbow around the sun, and there was a rainbow in the waterfall. I was given this as a medicine shield. So it was like protection. It's like you could say a medicine shirt also, you know, that covers us, protects our aura for the spiritual work I'm asked to do in this life. So I've been using this name since then, and as an author. The name True Brother came later, but it's like an evolution of along my spiritual path of different teachings and initiations I received that brought me to understand that basically as humans, what is asked from us, or what is the best we could expect, is to be good relatives, to treat each other as brothers and sisters, relatives, part of the same family, so with respect, with love, in peaceful ways. So the best we can have, we can hope to become actually is a good relative. So that's why it's named True Brother. After many other medicine names I've been given and I've used, this one has stuck to me as my autism.
I love it. And I will say to people, the audibles, as you can probably hear to the audience, are not good. And I'm so irritated. I just bought this new laptop because I needed one. I just tried to plug my headphones in, but of course they don't fit in this newfangled thing that they change all the shapes. And so I would advise people, please do not comment. If you can't hear, keep that to yourself. I'm so grateful to Sunbow True Brother being on the channel. He doesn't do that many interviews. His work is just globally important for messages from Sasquatch to humanity and his shamanic intelligence and journeying. So put the subtitles on and go read those, because I'm going to have to do that too, because it is difficult to hear you. But I'm so grateful that you're here. I'll take that any day over you not being here at all. Your shamanic journey, can you give us an insight into what particularly in the beginning of life put you on that journey? What was the event, if there was one particular event that you thought, I need to find out more about life here?
Like the start, the trigger, you mean? Well, it's always the continuity of lifetimes before that brought us to where we start in this one. And I had a spiritual education from my Christian background, family. But in early teenage, I started having paranormal experiences, out-of-body experiences, very significant, vivid dreams, encounters with entities and different things like that, that made me want to find answers that my education and background didn't provide. So at the age of just before turning 17, I left on a journey around the first tour of North America. And it was a spiritual quest, which brought me to different schools, different churches, temples, but also spiritual circles, shamanic circles, indigenous teachings, and in which I found most of my answers. So that started me that, to be precise about one moment, it's when I took my first vision quest. It was in October 13th, 1983. And the Fraser Valley is a story I've told several times. And when I had my first encounter with my spirit guides, as well as within that same week with my first close encounter with Sasquatch. So that started it for me. Like, I knew there was more than I'd been taught in school. And if I wanted to find out, it was up to me to search and to walk that path and learn.
Thank you. I know that we have, you and I have talked and we've shared on this channel and at the conference, this Galactic and Spiritual Informers Conference, which you were a speaker at last year and did a beautiful job. So grateful for you. I couldn't get you physically there, but I could get you on Zoom. So again, I would take you anywhere I could get you last year. Could you please, for those, because there's new people coming all the time, every day to channels like mine. Could you share with us, again, the experience when you first met with Sasquatch, and what did they look like and everything?
Yeah, well, that night on the Fraser River near Chehalis, there is Indian reserve there, which from whose language actually the very name Sasquatch comes from, which I didn't know back then in '83. We are in the middle of the night. We had put up a lean-to and stripped a couple of small cedars to cover it. And in the middle of the night, we heard heavy footfalls coming through the brush along the river. It was pitch black and heavy rain. We saw no light or anything, but someone came and broke the post at 6 inches thick post holding our roof, and our roof fell in our faces in the middle of the rainy night. And one that was camped next to us in his little tent, because he was snoring very loud, he came a panic and he said, we have to go, we have to go. And we asked him why, and he said he had seen a big hairy monster, as he described, come put down our camp and vanish like a ghost. That story, it took a long time for me to understand what really happened that time, because I didn't have any knowledge about Sasquatch, about this kind of paranormal encounters, that even, the Patterson footage, everybody has seen it, but it's not telling you who are the Sasquatch. So that was a beginning of a long, I could say over 40 Ks now, shamanic path, and through which was an evolution. There's always like more advanced teachings and lessons, as well as challenges and missions, duties to accomplish according to our ability and gifts.
Beautiful, beautiful. Your first series of books, can you tell us why you had to title them, or it, The Hairy Humanoid, please?
Hairy humanoids, because there are different types. They have an infinity of names. Just in North America, we could list hundreds of names that the tribes have given them. We all know Bigfoot, Sasquatch, but there's dozens and dozens, hundreds actually, of different names those being had. If you go to Australia, you'll find the same thing, or in Asia, as well as I mentioned, European traditions. So how do we call these beings generically? They are humanoids. That's one thing we know. We don't know if they're hominids or hominoids, but we know they're humanoids. They look like humans. Maybe some genetic studies have brought clues that they do carry probably hominin DNA plus something else. But what we know for sure, they are humans. They look like human shape. And the other thing that makes them different and recognizable, distinguishable from us, is they're hairy all over. Different thickness and length of hair, different color. And then again, there can be small ones, there can be some our size, some much taller than us. So to include all of those species of hairy humanoids is the most precise term that I find. That's why I called my encyclopedia of all things Sasquatch, hairy humanoids from the wild. And I'm not the first one to come up with this, because in the 1960 to 63, around those years, there was an international institute of research on the hairy humanoids. It was centered in Rome, but there were people from United States, Great Britain, France, Italy, Germany, Russia, Japan, and most often people with ties to secret agencies, secret services. That were very taken back in 1960. We had this international group of scientists and government agents that were taking this subject very seriously. Mm-hmm. So we wonder why 60 years later they make a joke about it. They every time you hear about humanoids on mainstream news, always a little joke like we cannot agree that maybe they're out there.
Well, that's how the mainstream media have to behave, because of course they're told what to do. And if we dare to look or imagine that we are surrounded with the most beautiful, benevolent, and some little shitty ones too, let's not kid ourselves, there's always balance, but there's so much more to this life than we've ever been led to believe. But that's why so many people come on this channel to disclose like the truths, the realities of our beautiful world. I want to ask you about your own kind of personal soul journey, in as much as you mentioned that you are connected with past lives. When you came into this life, there was something in you that helped you, guided you onto that journey. Do you believe that you may yourself have been a Sasquatch being in a previous incarnation?
Yes, I believe so, and I'm not the only one who has this feeling, intuition, memory. Also, we have been many human bodies before. It's my understanding that in agreement with a lot of ancient spiritual teaching from around the world that we're not this body. This body is just a vehicle. It's a temple. It's sacred. That our essence, our consciousness carries on and can use another body.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. You said that. It's such a funny thing. Like I've been for many, many years a past life regression therapist, because I understand some people who have real stuck issues in this life. It's because they're trying to heal the unconscious, the subconscious in this life. And there are some people that don't have the ability to open their minds to this, and that's fine. They're in the rearview mirror now. But for people like you and I, having an open conversation, I love that you confirm that you know yourself to have been a beautiful Sasquatch being before. When I look at you, I also get that feeling myself. And I've met others like you. One such friend, a male friend of mine who I'm really close to, he loves his hair. Man, he does not want to shave that chest, he doesn't want, and I mean, everyone's beautiful in their own way. Of course, I truly mean that. He's such a handsome guy. And just a sparkle here and there. And then the minute that shirt's off, it's like, good Lord. but it reminds him, and it's just so lovely. And I love that some of us come to realize and recognize that the physical signatures. What would you say, if it's all right to go there? If not, it's fine, we'll move on to another subject. What would you say would be your physical signatures that allows you to believe that you really are from a past time Sasquatch, part of a Sasquatch family?
Well, one thing I used to do past life readings. I did that for several years for many people, and I kind of put it aside because it's very demanding energetically. It can be mind-blowing, sometimes life-changing for people to finally connect the dots and put the pieces of the puzzle together and see the bigger picture of what their life is about or what's going on really on the long term. I tell several anecdotes about this in my memoirs. So, but of course, when I started doing that with dowsing, I began with myself, started testing it on myself and seeing, and I started piecing the pieces together that in the end make such a picture you had no idea before when you started. I was like, oh, it's like everything is connected and direct consequence of the last action or the previous action that brings the same situation, actually the same evolution of the soul further and further, depending how we react with the situations and what we do with what we have. But if we sometimes we have to come back and repair or learn again, remember something. Other times we can just fix it and move on, or even help others to move on past their blockages or their karma. So this way, we can go like pretty much towards the infinity in the past, in future, and in space. That's to where our consciousness has been and where it can reach. So when I was doing those readings for people, I was trying to focus on what is the most important lessons or knowledge that they needed to remember, and the most important things that we need to clear or to heal, to repair. Because as long as we don't, it keeps coming back up. So the purpose of the whole process finally is healing of our soul, and the more we work on it, the further we get, the less we have to problems to deal with, and more we can also help others in their healing journeys.
What else is beautiful about you sharing with us is the fact that there are so many people that even when they do start to open their mind to all the possibilities of how simply amazing they are, how we each individually are, with these incredible beings. But people, when they go into a past life scenario, some of them, the newer souls, I might, suggest, they think they're like Nefertiti or Nefertari or Ramses II, or they could never just be John who cleaned the loos in the, you know what I mean? And I love that you're bringing forward the idea that perhaps somebody else has been a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, a whatever we want to call this beautiful hairy humanoid. It helps level the playing fields and bring people into a calm thinking, open their mind to possibilities without having to make jokes or mock something they as yet haven't had the intelligence to be able to explore for themselves. Could you tell us the latest book that you put out, the 3rd volume of your contemporary shamanic journeys? What can we expect in the newest one? How can we get it? And if you would like to speak about the first 2, please do.
Sure. Well, this series, my autobiography or memoirs. It first started 20 years ago when I had already, back around the year 2001 and 2, around there. I had already traveled for 20 years through countless gatherings and ceremonies and encounters, a dozen of times back then around North America already, twice around Mexico, 5 months in Jamaica, almost 3 years in Europe. So I was already 20 years ago starting to think about all I had experienced and learned. That was at times worth telling or sharing. And I was already starting to lose bits and pieces like that. I said, wow, if I don't record, I'm gonna forget most of it by the time I get old. So it felt like a spiritual mission for me that if I want to leave the best of what life gave me as a legacy, I had to start recording it. And back then I started like handwriting sheets, notebooks and stuff. And then around 2006, I started to make the project more serious and started typing an introduction online. I first started in French. Eventually, that brought me to write a first draft of the first 2 books in French. But since that time, I started publishing other books in English, which reach much more further worldwide, to a global audience. And so when I was ready to make these memoirs into actual books, I found it was preferable to publish in English, to write them in English. So the first volume tells about my first decade of apprenticeship in learning from my birth to covering the 80s. And then the second volume covers the 90s. And this last volume covers the year 2000 to 2010. So the first volume is called On the Path of Spiritualist Science. It's pretty much like an apprentice that started learning medicine people, learning rituals, sacred ways, and practicing. On the sacred path, I was already a practitioner in my social tribal circles where I was leading ceremonies and giving teachings. So the title of the second one is okay, I got a blank. Yeah, I got a blank, but
that's all right.
The one I just published earlier this month, 20 days ago, is Spiritualist Pacifism and Wisdom Keepers. In the 2000 to 2010, I got involved. I'd been first, but I started very involved into activism with very often with native elders on the front line and wisdom keepers that were guiding the movement, giving it a purpose, a reason, and so spiritual activism. We're doing ceremonies and chants, and always in a pacifist, peaceful way. In the long term, it brings some results because it's what we put out and create that will grow. So if we choose a world of peace, we can believe and create it. Even if there's a world of war happening, we don't have to fight against it. We have to manifest the vision we believe in.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, being a passive activist, but being strong. And if you look around the world, every beautiful Indigenous group has been, without exception, harmed and repressed. And this is the time for the uprising for the beautiful Indigenous people and the beings of our planet, not to be dictated to by a small little festering turd board of people that should not be telling us what to do. Could you mention a couple of the beautiful Indigenous tribes that you have had the honor, and they the honor of you, to spend time with and share Indigenous secrets with?
Of course. Actually, I just remember now that the subtitle of the volume 2 is Spiritualist Tribes and Communities.
Oh, wow.
Because learning and growth, spiritual growth, even personal development happens through communities, through service, through involvement with our local or regional or global community, but through what we can contribute, what we can share from what we have received. Also through practice, because we don't become skilled unless we practice, whether it is whatever, craft or music or arts or spiritual arts, like healing, like teaching, like leading ceremonies. The more we practice, the better we get, and the more we can help others and teach others to learn practicing. So those to answer your question, there's definitely I've had contacts with well, probably by now personal contact with people from over 100 Indigenous nations, gatherings, and elders from at least 4 dozens of Indigenous nations I have learned with or have done ceremonies, or that I can, I remember them when they transmitted to me. So of course, when I tell my memoirs, they always come along with those are significant events and encounters that I document. I also like to include a lot of information about, for instance, if I travel to a country, I describe it, the geography, some history, what happened there, how it came to be, how it is, what's the culture, and I like to give this kind of information to put people in context. Yeah, and also in my last two books, I included a lot of photos, 175 in the last one.
Mm.
Give a visual, you know, like when you talk about Lake Titicaca or some.
Did you say Lake Titicaca?
Yeah.
In Bolivia, wow.
In that last book, I tell my journeys across North, Central, and South America in that decade. Including many ancient sacred sites where I was in many ceremonies with shamans and medicine people. So I have by chance some photos of more of those recent years than 40 years ago. I don't have much. But of course, there's not always photos for everything. But if you describe, for instance, Tiahuanaco or Cusco or some ancient megalithic site, there's nothing like a picture to show the size of it and how it's built.
Yeah.
For people to kind of get the feeling.
That's so lovely. I'm just gonna, I know the sound is so terrible, SunBôw, but again, people don't complain, just put your subtitles on and sit back and relax and enjoy. We're doing the best we can here with the audibles. It's so interesting, Cusco, I've been there, Machu Picchu, the Inca Trail, and there's more information coming out now on the ancient trails that they are pre-Inca. Again, hidden, lost information that our indigenous have known. They'll be like, no, it's not lost. Come over here. We've got it all down, you know, whether it's oratory, you know, story to story or written. Now, with that, I would like to ask you, is there, in your opinion, or that you've seen, hieroglyphs in particular that show our beautiful Sasquatch brothers and sisters?
There are hieroglyphs. Well, that's another. I'm not sure it's exactly answering your question, but that's a domain that I studied a lot. Is paleography, which is ancient scripts, ancient writings, and linguistics. I made charts of all the linguistic family and stuff like that, and filled notebooks with ancient script, Sanskrit, Egyptian hieroglyphics, Mayan, all kind of stuff. I was very passionate with that, and which helped me to do a few discoveries. For instance, I was brought, that I tell in my last book, I was brought to a site in southern Quebec, I can say, where the inscription and what I found around it, I describe my book as Phoenician.
Phoenician.
And in that same region, there's two old Phoenician stelae that were found 100 years ago and translated. I saw myself. So that's cues. You know, I would have a hard time to identify who built that site without the inscription. Another example I can give is the Phaistos disc, which was found in a Cretan Minoan palace room. It's a unique, it's a clay disc with spiral inscription on each side, that like hieroglyphs. That it's never, it's a unique example of that script, and it's never been translated despite several attempts. But I actually decoded it, and I cracked the code, and I could translate it just by a simple scientific method, you know, comparing to the contemporary Egyptian hieroglyphic alphabet and could establish connection, then decode the phonetics. And incredibly, the ancient Minoan Cretans, we don't know officially what language they spoke, but that was some kind of Proto-Latin, like root of Greek and Latin.
Greek and Latin.
So that was confirmed by many ancient authors of antiquity, like Herodotus, that Crete was a colony of Troy, and that Trojans went to found the Latium on the basis of the Latin language where Rome was founded. So that's just an example, very in a nutshell, because it's a long process to decode. But sometimes we can crack the code where nobody has, because
Crack the code.
there's clues we can follow, find the meaning of the message.
You know, I've had it shared with me by various people, the extraordinary level of intellect and emotional intelligence in the Sasquatch people, and those two who come through into more of a physical human vehicle, less hairy this time around, such as your good self, and you just exude all of that. And the fact that people, in their ignorance and their lack of education, which some of it's not their fault, it's just the way the system has controlled them and robotized them and kept them away from their own indigenousness. But it's so beautiful to see you, a man of the wilderness, holding such reverence to ancient codes, decoding hieroglyphs, pictographs, etc., things that the most advanced scholar who's gone through all the systems of training and degree education, bless them, to this date, cannot decode what you've decoded. Now, a couple of things you mentioned, somewhere in Quebec, the two stelas or stellas that you have decoded. I don't feel that you want to share where that is, and I'm not going to ask you to, but is this akin to the stela at the Sphinx, the dream stela as it's known at the Sphinx, where it's laid out in hieroglyphs what this majestic, Sphinx is? I know it's been changed over the years. Some people say it started out with a human face. Others say it started out with a lion face, akin to the Lyran system. But going specifically to you and those two stelas, is there a connection? Is there a similarity?
With the Sphinx, well, in a way, I couldn't say directly, but there's always a connection somehow. Because if you look at all those ancient monuments, there are some concepts. They're the greatest library in themselves, because we see a constant, unexplainable rule is that the lower levels, the more ancient levels, are the most sophisticated, the most advanced technologies using the largest blocks we can't even move nowadays. And there are several upper layers that are less and less sophisticated. In Peru, for instance, or in the Andes, they know very well about the three different ages of civilization that they describe in their own language, which I mentioned in my last book. So that's how come. I mean, that means our history books are wrong.
Yes, our history books are wrong. Yes.
Because the evidence contradicts the story we've been told.
Absolutely. Oh my God, it's such a shame about the audio, and I am so proud of you and so happy and grateful that you're giving me your time today, seriously. I mentioned or asked you about the Indigenous tribes. Are there any in particular, like the Hopi, the Apache, the Navajo, the Chippewa, the Sioux, the Cheyenne, for example, who have a specific, maybe a totem as a Sasquatch? Is there anything more you can tell us so we can connect more to their history too?
Yeah, some tribes have a very strong connection with the Sasquatch. There's different types of relations. Some stay away from them or fear them. others have great respect and honor them in their ceremonies. For instance, the Anishinaabe, which are mostly known as the Algonquins or Algonquians. It's the largest linguistic family in North America. And they have one of their traditional teaching called the Seven Grandfather Teachings. Each one of the seven grandfathers is a being that represents a virtue or a teaching. And there's different animals, and one of them is the Sasquatch, which we call Sabe or Nisabe in their language, which represents honesty. So that's one example that very well-known traditional teaching mentioning Sasquatch. If you go on the West Coast, you see a lot of Sasquatch appearing on totem poles and many stories as well.
Beautiful. Can you spell the name of the tribe with the seven grandfathers, please, so people can go look that up? Hopefully it's not been interfered with, but hey.
Okay, there's different spellings for the same names in those languages because they're not academic, depending on the source where you get your name, but Anishinaabe or sometimes Anishinaabe, it's A-N-I, which means people, S-H-I, yeah, N-A-B-E. That's basically, sometimes there's the variations in the spelling, or Algonquin. That's actually, the Anishinaabe is the same language spoken by the Algonquin, the Ojibwe, Chippewa, and many other.
Okay. Beautiful. SunBôw, true brother, I have so many questions for you, honestly. I'm going to keep it limited, though, because I do value your time. I wanted to mention something that I have witnessed for myself over these years as people are coming into their comfort, their courage, and their warrior spirit to share the real truths about the history of our planet on and off planet. And I've noticed a certain type of person, and all of those people speak French. It's quite remarkable. It's like there's a French Revolution going on in great people in this time of disclosure and our Earth's ascension, and I'm ever so pleased about that. I grew up in Britain, and we've always been taught what buggers the French are. Even the French Canadians, they're French because they're warriors. They're just something different, like a force, a joie de vivre, whatever that is, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it in people like you, SunBôw, true brother. We're seeing it in people like Elena Danan, in Jean-Charles Moyen. It's just beautiful to watch this. I love it. I also wanted to mention to people that you were also interviewed recently, excuse me, on Dr. Michael Sala's website, his YouTube channel. Beautiful job. He saw you on my channel because we're friends and asked me if I could introduce you. I was so happy because my channel is like 2 versus his 100,000. I mean, he's got a much bigger, beautiful reach than I do. And I want to invite people watching this broadcast to invite SunBôw, true brother, to get a real education on the planet, the true history of the Sasquatch, the beauty of the Sasquatch, the ancient indigenous connected to the Sasquatch, the shamanic journeys that this man has taken, and the tomes of work that he has brought for us, the encyclopedic, the literary, the genius. I mean, you are loved. I mean, I see you popping up in other communities. You are very loved and respected on this planet.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. How does it make you feel, not to put you on the spot, because I know you are a very humble man?
One thing life teaches us, that's one thing I guess I've been learning for a while, is that we always end up getting what we put out, or the feedback of what we put out. So if we want to be like selfish then, or arrogant or boastful or anything that is not serving the best interest of all. People are not so dumb. You might fool some people sometime, but you cannot fool all the people all the time.
Yeah.
So there's pretty much a matter of karma. If we want to be in a spirit of service and loving and just do our spiritual duty, there's no glory. There's not even reward most of the time. It's just what we're supposed to do. And what does that mean? Being good relatives, true brothers, true sisters, good ancestors, leaving good tracks for the future generations, helping the ones we can help. That's what makes us happy anyway. The more we do it, the more we feel we're accomplished. It's not about proving that, hey, I'm this or that, or you can put this label, or I'm a great, or because we're always learning, we all have our weaknesses, and when someone start calling themselves with titles, from what my great elders taught me, he told me, don't trust someone who calls himself a shaman. Because you can be a practitioner, yeah, I follow a shamanic path, shamanic teachings, practices. But shaman means a spiritual person. And you cannot label yourself like, say, I'm a spiritual person, like more than others. You know? Other can say, oh, you're a spiritual person, I see that in you. But it's not ours to judge or to advertise ourselves. The best thing we can do is share what we've learned, if that can help others.
Yeah, that's beautiful. One thing over my many years of practice and learning and journeying in many different realms, it's like when two people fall out and they're criticizing another person, I've often witnessed them saying, oh, her energy is so low, like her vibration is so low. And then what that means is that people talking are assuming, or it's soul assassination versus, like Miguel, what's his name? The Four Agreements, Misha, I've forgotten his name. And I knew him as well in Carlsbad, California. Anyway, Miguel Ruiz, the Ruiz guy. When we talk about someone like that, we're assassinating their soul, but also what's happening is two people come together. So one person says, so-and-so said this, and they're finding comfort and bonding in taking care of hurt feelings. And they assume together that person must be a lower vibration than them. And I would love for people just to go, it's a different vibration to where you are right now. It doesn't mean they're lower than you or higher than you. And that was a teaching I witnessed many different spiritual teachers that name themselves thus through my own training, which I don't think is helpful in our growth right now, because we're all, whether we like it or not, we're being dragged by the arse to face this ascension that we're going through and evolve and find the great people with the teachings that we can learn from. And how, I did a broadcast with a mentor yesterday, beautiful man. He's very much about human potential. He's been a mentor for 20 odd years and a really good friend. He was saying the same thing, we're all going through different things. Let's all honor each other. I mean, I'm naughty sometimes. I'll have a little pop at someone, but my wounds are open, Sunbow. Like, I will sit and be me and try and bring information. And if I'm getting triggered, and I own the triggers, and I think you can't be all that in a bag of chips without showing, a rawness with self either, and you do such a beautiful job of being humble and calm and sharing the information. And I really feel like, I'll speak for myself, I could really learn more humility and calmness from someone like you on this journey. I want to say again to people to invite Sunbow True Brother on your channel, because the channels, I don't know why people aren't doing more of this. I'm so grateful to have a channel. My channel is for all of us. It's for you, it's for other people like you. And because you were getting stifled and suffocated on fake book, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. That's why you and I are talking now, so we can bloody well promote your books. And I ask everyone that sees this, please share share Sunbow True Brothers work. If you've got a bigger channel than me or whatever, invite him on let him speak, hear the man. He's spent all his life bringing information to us. Let's support him, please. Let me look, websites, Michael Sala, Quebec. I made notes while you were talking. Okay. Can you talk? Oh my God. The first time I studied you, I got lost for hours. Like it was a whole 6-hour Saturday night. I got lost in your website. Your website. I couldn't believe the articles there, SunBôw. Can you tell us about the website? Name it. I'm going to put the details underneath, but name it. Tell us what we can expect and why you did it and what's on there.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Yes, it's at scenicsasquatch.com. And scenic, SCENIC, stands for Sasquatch Close Encounter Network for Interspecies Communication. And we promote peaceful, spiritual, interspecies relations, nonviolent approach, and advice for people who have interest and experiences, as well as people sharing their experiences. Over 300 so far have shared theirs. And because this knowledge is a lot suppressed and repressed, even within the so-called Bigfoot world, where if the mainstream is the big ape or monster theory, and if you don't subscribe to that, or you want to share a different experience, you're banned. So that's why they asked me. I said my guys, the Sasquatch, asked me to start Scenic, which is a safe circle and platform where people can share, trust, whether anonymously if they prefer or not, what they have experienced. That's where we teach each other. We learn from each other's experience.
Yeah, and the stories are what keeps everything energetically raising and rising, and we must and will continue to share these stories as we all rewrite his story from the Western narrative that has tried to destroy the indigenous beauty, but has failed and is failing and are constantly failing. So your latest book, again, it is The Contemporary Shamanic Journey. It is the 3rd volume of a 3-part trilogy autobiography. Your title of many is author Sasquatch Experience. I remember when I first met you last year or the year before, when you told me, I do not want the name expert. I am an experiencer. And I was like, oh, that was a humbling moment for me. That was a teachable moment, SunBôw. Thank you for that. And again, it just speaks to your humility, not to put yourself above another, but to hold and value the information and experience that you have and share with others. I would love to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, just, amongst many, many stories and experiences that I've heard you share, the one with the 15 and the Sasquatch and the grandmother and the craft. Would you mind sharing that story with us again?
Yeah, sure. It was the same place that story I shared earlier in by Chalice, Fraser River, where I had my first close encounter with Sasquatch in October '83. And I returned there. It was 38 years later, so it was in 2018. This was 83. I think it was in 2018 or 19, somewhere around there. That was in June anyway. I remember I was with another friend we call named Eric, who was also a Sasquatch communicator. Yeah, encountered himself. We went to the Sasquatch Days Festival. It's a native-led event that started in 1938. and it's still held in Harrison Hot Springs, which is dubbed the Sasquatch capital of the world. Because well, Sasquatch has been celebrated there. There's a museum recently started there. There's a Sasquatch statues all around town. There's the Sasquatch Provincial Park next to it. And next to the Chehalis Reserve, which has Sasquatch as its tribal emblem. There's a Sasquatch Inn, Sasquatch Ski Resort, and so on. So we went to that Sasquatch Day Festival, we camped around there for a couple of days, and then we went, and I said, why don't we go back to that place where I had my first encounter, not too far from there, so we went there. First thing when we arrived, we found the beams, the frame, the lean-to I had built with my friends so many years earlier. And the next thing we found right in front of it, there was in the underbrush, there was a small tree structure. It was all interwoven, like kind of teepee shape, long, with green boughs and with knots inside of it, showing it was freshly made. And we felt it was made there for us, so we left some offerings and we camped there for the night, and that's when by nightfall, before it got around dusk, I started seeing first grandmother, matriarch, whose face was between the fur, and I tried to film her and then asked, but nothing came out on the camera. But then she appeared to my friend Eric, and she spoke to him for a while. And she did a healing on him. She felt like five wave of love come through him, and that released some fear and some pain on him.
What did
And
she
then
look
she
like?
told him, now you are ready to meet us.
Oh my gosh.
And just as he told me that, we started hearing heavy footfalls coming our way through the rock. Very loud, heavy. It came and it stopped maybe 15, 20 feet from us. So my friend was a little bit like surprised. It's come in peace. We're here in peace, and we come to communicate in peace, and let's drop and worry or fear. That was the patriarch, grandfather, who told me he was the one who put down my camp so many years before, and explained me why, because he was a watcher of the river and was the keeper of that site. We as young lads had not respected back then. So then they started to introduce us to other clan members. Came up, we started seeing them coming out of the bush one by one until we could count 15 around us. Of course, when I say that, were they fully materialized? I cannot really say, but we can say they were visible enough so we could count 15.
Oh.
There may be sometime in a state in between where we're not totally in this timeline, or we can interfere or interact with this timeline or this physical plane, but they're not necessarily stuck here in this physical plane, like they don't come there walking, for instance. They didn't come there walking, because they just appeared there. So we could see them. We communicated, and after a while, they were telling me they were the oldest lineage of Sasquatch. And I asked them if they knew my guide Camus. And grandmother, she said, yes, he's our elder. So I asked her, is he around? And she said, ask him. So I asked Camus. And he replied, he said, I'm very far on a spaceship, but I can hear you. So I asked him, can you come this way? That's too far. And he said, okay, I'm coming. And just as I was saying that to Eric, what he had told me, he said, look up. And look up, and there's a spaceship coming. Coming down, and it grew bigger until it over above the Fraser River, turned into a big green, bright globe. And then it dimmed, and then it flew just above the tree line over our heads, and we could see 3 spots under it. And then I was informed that the spaceship went and landed on the mountain across the river, and it stayed there for most of the rest of the night until our encounter was over. Then I was told Camus had come with a star elder, and I appeared in their astral body. It was a projection, but I saw them coming walking, could hear them too, and started giving me teachings for that specific vision quest. It was maybe 3, 4, probably 4 in the morning by the time this was all over, and we said, well, now I see you're tired, so we're going to let you rest, and we're going to return to our own business. And they all disappeared, and the spaceship took off into the mountain.
Beautiful. It's such a beautiful share. And for those who want to know who Camus is and much more, I recommend that you connect with Sunbow True Brother, get his books, get on that website he told you about, and really dig into this just library, this archaeological library, this modern day beauty of work that you have brought here to the planet. I would love to come to you for final words. We've been going for over an hour here, which is delightful for me. Again, guys, just put the subtitles on so you can hear what SunBôw is saying, because it was a bit tricky with audibles. So, Sat, let me ask you for your final message in this broadcast today.
I'm sorry, someone's on my door right now. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Your final message, what would you like to say?
Okay, I just told them. Oh, my final message. Well, I would say every day is a blessing, and it's an opportunity. It's a gift. What can we do with it? What also can we do with everything that our life has given us? That has taught us the lessons, the teachings that even through our human relations, through the different experiences that are not always easy and nice, but that are always carrying teachings. So with all this baggage, there's a teaching, it's called the basket teaching, that I described in my last book, because you put all your gifts and your talents, your skills, your knowledge, you put all this in your basket. And you're grateful for what you have in your basket, and that's what you have to work with. So it's like a way to say, okay, this is my heritage, my baggage. What can I do to make it prosper, make it useful for a larger number, to share this wealth life has given. So I would say that's about, to me, it summarizes pretty much a spiritual path with different ways, different beliefs, doesn't matter. That's the purpose of it. It's to carry for the blessings that we are given to share.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, again, it's been my absolute pleasure and honor to host you on my channel. And again, welcome to the public and those that see this to get on and get into your beautiful, beautiful work. Just to recap, the third of the trilogy is called The Contemporary Shamanic Journeys, Sunbow True Brother. You shared your website with us, and your other works are Sasquatch Message to Humanity, the Hairy Humanoid series. So much incredible beauty have you brought to this planet in this journey that you've been on. So I nearly called you Sasquatch then. Oh yeah, I know what Sasquatch, Mr. Sasquatch, Sunbow True Brother. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Merci beaucoup. To those of you watching, I know you're going to be thrilled at everything that Sunbow has brought here today. And again, the details of all of his works are right underneath this video. So go and enjoy and dive in. And I send you all my love, and I will see you soon.